Hello, hello. So I know I said on my last video that I was going to be taking a rest, but I also said that if the Lord sent me with a word, I would, of course, obviously out of obedience, have to listen and put it out, right? So here I am with this word. I don't know if it's the first of more or just this one random one. I don't know, but this is what the Lord said is the energy at this exact moment at this time, okay? And when the Lord gave me this download, I double checked with the Lord. I was like, okay, are you sure you want me to put this message out? And he led me to look at my clock on my stove and it said 333. So that was confirmation. So it was 3:33 when I got this download and looked at the clock and asked Lord for confirmation. So I know that this is something that's happening right at this time and that this is something that the Lord has asked me to put out for this time. Okay? So let's get into it. So the Lord was saying that basically in the past, I've talked about this before. If you're a child of God, this message is for you, okay? You were once in the world before your journey with Christ, right? So it doesn't matter if you've been on your journey with Christ for a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. You were once upon a time in the world. When you were in the world, you also associated with certain individuals that have now since been coming against you. So this could have been family members that were in the world, you were in the world, so you had that in common. Ex-partners, you were in the world, they were in the world, you had that in common. Past co-workers, past friends, people you went to high school with, people from your hometown, you name it, right? But what you all had in common was you were in the world and they were in the world. So you all could have bonded together over addictions, bad habits. Maybe you gambled together. Maybe you partied together. Maybe you both smoked cigarettes. Whatever, right? Maybe you knew a mutual person that they knew, and then that person that you both knew did these things. There were worldly ties that kept you in associations with these people. You left the world behind and ended up following the path that Christ has for you, and now you're on the righteous path, and you have been for quite some time. This message probably wouldn't apply to anyone who's been on the path for just a few mere months. This is someone that's been walking this road with Christ for quite some time now, okay? Anyway, you got separated because these people that I just spoke of, they stayed in the world, okay? So when you accepted the call, which is available to everyone can take up their own individual cross and follow Christ at any time. When you decided to do this, you answered yes and they all said no. So therefore the Lord separated you, okay? Kind of like you were in a pack of wolves, right? And then the Lord separated you as his sheep, and because you're a sheep, you need a shepherd. Wolves are wild, right? They're wild and they travel in packs. Sheep are in a flock, but they're more on their own and they have a shepherd tending to the flock. So that's a good comparison that the Lord gave me, is that you were once a wolf and these people are still wolves, and wolves devour sheep, right? Not sheep don't eat wolves, wolves eat sheep. And wolves don't need a shepherd, but sheep do. And a shepherd will not just tend to one sheep, right? They will tend to a whole flock of sheep. And so once you made this call, answered the call, and walked the straight and narrow path, you became one and part of the flock, which is the body of Christ. And the Lord shepherds over you and the body of Christ as your fellow brother and sisters, okay? So these people, they were upset that you left. They took that as some sort of a slight, okay? Just the fact that you left. Now, they may have called it something else. They may have said, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, oh, you think you're better, oh, you think you're so great, da 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 da. But the Lord is saying what it really boiled down to, the nugget of it, the seed of it all, was that you got separated and they didn't. So simply no different than if a sheep was once a wolf and the sheep leaves the wolves and goes somewhere else and gets shepherded over. They would think that that meant that that person thought they were better than or special or whatever, right? And you are, because you chose the right path, and this is a path they could have taken. So because of this choice, they started to come against you because they felt like as if you thought you were greater or better than them. That was never the case. You never thought you were better than them. You were just as guilty of the worldly things as they were, and they had the chance and choice to leave the wolf pack and the world behind and take up their cross like you did, right? But automatically the sheep have the shepherd protecting them and caring for them. You automatically, when you did that, had the Lord caring for you. So even if these wolves come after, picture a shepherd with his flock. If a wolf comes after that flock, The shepherd is there to protect them, right? So the sheep, whether they know they're on the verge of attack or not, it's irrelevant. The sheep don't have to do anything. That's what the shepherd's for, right? And sometimes the shepherd will even have a shepherd dog as well, right? And so that's like representing angels. So you as a sheep didn't have to go against these people. You didn't have to deal with their feelings or thoughts or attacks or worries, because the good shepherd was shepherding over you and all the others that were in the body of Christ along with you that made up this flock, okay? So when these wolves came around to attack, which they did, the Lord stepped in every time because he keeps watch over his sheep, which is yourself. These people, because of this, these are the people that you left behind. These are now the people that have been coming against you, that have been attacking you. And they all feel justified to do this. They feel like they have a right and a reason to do these things. But they don't. The Lord said the only reason they feel like they have a reason is because you got separated and they didn't. They got left in the mangy wolf pack, and you have someone taking care of you, shearing you, feeding you, all the things that a shepherd does with a sheep, right? These are the things you're getting to have. So they're upset and mad about that. But the Lord is saying they have no right or reason because they can do the very same thing you're doing, but they chose not to. Okay? Now, some of them are trying to feel justified, like you did this last year, you did this 10 years ago, you did this 15 years ago, I heard this, I heard that. And because you've been walking the straight and narrow for so long, they don't even have material on you, right? You're not guilty of anything. So that's why they've been having to stalk you. That's why they've been having to hack your accounts and talk to people that knew you once upon a time, otherworldly people that make up this wolf pack, is just on purpose to try to drum up material on you to try to keep the fire going, right? This is a fire that they lit that was not necessary to light. And as we know, if eventually a fire, if unattended, will go out. The Lord has put this fire out numerous times, but they've rekindled it. They don't want the fire to go out. So they just keep putting more kindling on, more gas, things like that, accelerants, to try and keep this fire going. The Lord will put it out, they'll restart it. The Lord will put it out, they'll restart it. Then when it starts to die down, they rekindle it, right? They want this fire against you to continuously burn, even though it's not necessary. There's no reason for it, at all. And this is what it boils down to. So this kindling that they're putting on the fire looks like trying to find material to stoke this fire to keep it going against you. But because you're on the righteous path, they're running out of material. The things they charged against you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago don't hold weight anymore, right? They've already used that kindling up. It's burnt to ash. So to come up with new kindling, they're forced to have to go and try and create things. And that is why they're using the occult and dark activities, is to try and stir up conflicts and dramas with those around you that maybe you still associate with, like perhaps the odd family member or your boss at work or a coworker or your children or a partner, is because these are the only people that have access to you, and they want to continue stoking this fire that the Lord has tried to put out many times. Every time the Lord has put out this fire, he has warned them. He said, do not start this fire again. Stop trying to stoke this fire. And they just keep doing it, okay? Sorry, just one second. Sorry about that. Always something, right? Always. Anyways, I rebuke you, Satan. Funny how when I start talking about this, then, distractions come. Just don't mind that. Just push past that. I digress. So because of this, the devil has tried to come against you, okay? Just for the simple fact that you were once a wolf running with this pack, and you left this pack behind and switched over to being a sheep with the shepherd, okay? So that in and of itself aroused Satan's attention to come against you, right? So because you had went from one version to another, Satan was in these people's ears telling them that you were evil, telling them that you were bad. It was a hoax, it was a fraud, you were a fake and a phony, you were evil, you're a witch, you're a warlock, you practice these dark things. He completely lied about you, because the devil's a liar, right? He lied about you to these people. And so these people started to think that, well, not all of them, but some of them thought that they were hearing from God. They thought that God was telling them these things about you. But in reality, not only was God not telling them these things about you, but it was actually the devil. And the reason why the devil was telling them this is because they were still in the world in this wolf pack. So the devil had access to them, right? Because I've said this before on my channel. When you're in the world and you don't choose to pick up your cross and carry it, and you don't choose to leave the wolf pack behind and the wolf mentality and go and choose to be shepherded by the good shepherd, the devil is able to access you and use you, okay? Because the worldly, like humans, us people, we like to say, oh, I'm a Christian, and then go play with tarot cards. Or say, oh, I go to church, and then turn around and drink on weekends or party, you know what I mean? Oh, I believe in God, I hear from God, I'm a prophet of God, but then turn around and fornicate, right? And so I'm not trying to call people out per se in this word. I'm just trying to say that the world tolerates lukewarmness, gray areas, hot and cold, kind of on, kind of off, kind of in, kind of out, right? You know what I mean? We tolerate that, and we consider that to be Christian. I personally know of people that have called themselves a Christian for 20, 30, 40 years, but yet are some of the most evil, wicked, cold-hearted, manipulative, deceitful people that I've ever known in my life, right? And so the Lord is saying there's a lot of people that claim to be of God and close to God, and they actually truly aren't. And what's frustrating about that is that they're setting a bad example in the world for those that think about coming to Christ. There are people that do think about picking up their cross and carrying it and leaving the wolf pack worldly mentality behind and joining Christ. They do. But because they have been either in their past or present dealt with those that call themselves Christians but are very, say a parent or something, or a father, just say, that goes to church or is a pastor but then turns around and is like sexually abusive, or something like that, partakes in addictions on the side and then acts very angry because of, you know what I'm saying? These things have tainted people's taste in their mouth for Christianity. And the Lord is saying that is the Jezebel spirit. The Jezebel spirit thought she was of God, pretended she was of God, acted like she was of God, but she really wasn't. She was really driven by the devil. And we know this once we read the Bible, right? But if you don't read the Bible and you're not privy to that information, and you're thinking about following God, and you personally witness this Jezebel spirit working her spirit through humans, and you personally witness or come in contact with this behavior, it's going to turn you off, right? We hear people talk about church hurt, that they tried God, they went to church, they were feeling shunned and rejected and ridiculed and things like that. And that's not what Jesus does. That's actually, when Jesus encountered sinners and those in the Bible, he embraced them, right? And that's the true Christian faith. But because in the church people got wind of that or felt that, it turned them off, and they left the church. And not only did they not return, they had a bad taste in their mouth when it came to God. And that's not accurate. Those people were representing the Jezebel spirit. They weren't representing the true spirit of Christ, right? And so the Lord is saying, because of that, there's people that haven't done what you've done. They haven't made the choice to say their yes, that they have the option to do, and instead stayed in the world. And because they stayed in the world, the devil was able to access them. Just no questions about it. He was. They can think not true. They can think that the Lord's hand is on them, that the Lord's protecting them. That's not true. If you don't follow the statutes of the Bible and accept Jesus Christ in your heart, not just God, but his son Jesus, then not only does the Father not know you, but you will be turned away if you were to go to heaven. And again, this isn't me being religious or mean. This is what the Bible says, right? And so as Christians, side message here, but as Christians, we have to preach the right message, because we have to teach the right message in order to garner more interest from those in the world so that they can be saved. Because as long as they think that the Jezebel spirit, this lukewarmness, this in-out mentality is godly, and that we pastor or preach or church on weekend or Sunday or whatever, and then we have these other 9 to 5 activities on the side, they're not going to take it seriously. They're not going to give it the reverence and credit that it deserves, right? So this is why the Lord has chosen certain individuals like yourself to choose to separate you as the sheep from this wolf pack mentality, so that he could teach you the right way, not the Jezebel way, not the worldly way, not the World 2024 version, but the real true way, right? The honest to goodness biblical way, so that you could turn around and use your position to save others. Okay? That's why. And so he's done a good work in you. He's cleaned you up and shined you up and pruned you and taking care of you, just like a shepherd does with his sheep. And you're in good shape now. Maybe when you came to him, you weren't. You were dirty and skinny and underfed and sick. But now, under his shepherding, you've become healthy and clean and joyful, right? And that's due to the sanctification and the glory of the Lord. And that is what he wants to do for these other wolves. But because these other wolves have had a taste of the Jezebel spirit, they think that that's what it is, and they're turned off by this, okay? So to have seen you be separated, and to now after the fact be in that kind of condition that you're in, that they're not in, you can see a wolf and you can see a sheep, and you can see how different they are. They know you're different and you know they're different. You're completely set apart from them now. You no longer run in a pack with them. You don't care to be in a wolf pack. You're happy and content to be being shepherded. You're not in the world anymore. You know, you're happy to be in the flock, etc. And so they see you there and them there. Okay. So because of this division and this separation, they were easy prey for the devil to use. And again, like I was saying, because of this lukewarmness, the devil can access them. A lot of these people that have been coming against you consider themselves to not have the devil in them, to not be hearing from the devil. They think when they hear the voice talking, they think it's God. But I'm here to tell you, because as God sent me, as someone who has been cleaned up and sanctified and saved, that is not God talking to them. God is not going to tell somebody who's in the world, who runs in a wolf pack, to go against his child, his sheep, especially like David was a shepherd boy. Why would God appoint shepherd boys to monitor the sheep from attack if the Lord is going to just turn right around and tell those wolves, hey, yeah, psst, go attack my children, go attack my sheep. This is where their pen's at. This is the way to get at them. This is where the foxhole is. This is how you get in there. This is the time they're eating and the time they're sleeping. So this is the best time to strike. Why would God do that? Right? So that's the problem, is that unfortunately for these people that are still in of the world, that haven't made the choice you've made, that haven't been shepherded by the good shepherd, they're still in of the world. And because they're still in of the world, the devil is accessing them, even if they're going to church on Sundays, even if they're praying, even if they're tithing, they're still accessible, because they're running in that wolf pack in the world mentality under the Jezebel spirit. The only way to truly see things for what they are is to leave that behind, pick up your cross and carry, and be sanctified by the Heavenly Father. Okay? And so the Lord is saying that because this hasn't happened, they feel like they're of God, but they're not. And the devil has told them that you're evil, you're bad, you're wrong. Even though you're not, you're actually the total opposite. You're righteous and you're good. And maybe once upon a time you did run in the wolf pack with them, and you were of these worldly characteristics, and they remember that about you. So That's their last impression, memory of you. So that's what they're basing their judgments off of. And so because of that, they've been coming against you, thinking that they're doing it in the name of the Father, thinking that they're doing the work for God. They think that they're helping God out. They think they're the sheep getting a wolf out of the mix, but in reality, they're the wolf going after a sheep. And the Lord is shepherding the sheep. He doesn't need you or me or them to go and involve themselves one way or another, because the Lord has done the separation. He knows who's the wolf and who's the sheep. You're the sheep, but they're trying to call you the wolf. And they're trying to pretend that they're the sheep. Okay. But this is why the Lord says, I have to be the judge. I have to do the judging, and vengeance is mine, and I'm the decider, because the human mind can be easily accessed and taken over by this Jezebel spirit, especially those that are in the world. And then it skews their perception of things, right? It makes their perception off and foggy. The Lord is also talking about the veil. So the Lord is saying that when we're in the world, there's a veil that's covered over our eyes. It's like basically having sunglasses on. We can't see as clearly or as properly as if that veil's off of our eyes or those sunglasses are removed, right? When you are a sheep and you pick up your cross and carry it and you're being shepherded by the Lord, He lifts the veil off you, that worldly veil, and lifts those sunglasses off. So that for the first time in however long it's been in your life, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, etc., you can finally see things clearly and accurately, because the devil, up until then, you were a wolf in the world. The devil was accessing you, just like how he was accessing these other people that you were, accompanying, right? In situations with, whatever you want to say. So now what's happened is that for the longest time, the Lord has allowed these wolves to see you wrong. Okay. The veil, you had a veil, and when you're in the world, the Lord chose you as to be sanctified and separated and divided from. You went with the Lord. He cleaned you up. He did a good work in you. And one of the first things He did was remove this veil off your eyes, this worldly veil that you had on your eyes for the longest time. Because you had this veil, it allowed you too as well to misconceive people, to misinterpret things, to have your perception wonky too, to partake in addictions, to partake in worldly things, especially and including with these specific people that are now coming against you, okay? But because you've had this veil removed for quite some time, you've been able, it's given you the ability to see things crystal clear for what they really are. You know who you are, you know who you were, you know who these people are, right? And what's going on, you know everything. The Lord has shown you things from the real point of view, from the real thing. But they, unfortunately for them, don't get to see things from this viewpoint because of the fact that they're still in the world running in these wolf packs. They don't have a shepherd to protect them and care for them. That's what makes them jealous and envious over you, is that you have that. They're trying to point blame on other things and say, oh no, it's because you did this in the past. You did that. Your ex is trying to say you did this. Half of it's true. The other half is not. And even the stuff that is true, the Lord's forgiven you for that. And they need to move on. That was a long time ago. And you're not even that same person. And they're not innocent either. There's things that these ex-friends and ex-coworkers and family members and ex-partners, the things that they're accusing you of are the very things that they themselves played a part in. So if they were accusing you of cheating, they also cheated, right? They're not innocent either. If they accused you of getting angry and angered and, hot-tempered, they also were angry and easily angered and hot-tempered. They are guilty of the same things that they're trying to charge against you. But the difference between you and them is you're no longer doing these things and they still are. You're no longer cheating. You're not fornicating. You're not acting out. You're not doing addictions, right? These are things that they're still partaking in and you're no longer doing, for one. For two, you've already repented to the Lord and made amends and reparations for those things from the past. So as far as the Lord's concerned, your slate is clean. Theirs isn't, because you last did these things 2-3 years ago. They just did these things 2-3 nights ago, right? And third, the Lord has cleaned you up and done a good work in you, right? And so the Lord has absolved you of all that stuff, and now you have a new name in Christ. And you're not, that was, you did those things when you were a wolf. You're no longer a wolf, you're a sheep now. You know it, and the Lord knows it, and these people know it too. But they're trying to treat you like you were when you were a wolf, but yet knowing and full well that you're now a sheep. So therefore it's not fair. And fourth of all, they had the option to do what you did too. They had the option to leave this behind. It's not like the Lord just had it delegated for you. Yes, you're a chosen one because the Lord had it tasked for you to do certain things so that you could try to save souls. Because like I explained earlier already, to save souls from this Jezebel spirit that's moving and roaming around. But these people were also given the option to leave the wolf pack behind and join the sheep flock. They had that choice, and they decided not to do it, right? So it's not fair to go against you because you chose a different road than they did, right? And fifth of all, okay, the Lord's just saying, yeah, that's all the reasons. So I thought he had one more, but he's like, no, that's good. Anyways, moving on. So these people have been trying to come against you because of the fact that they're upset and mad that you left them behind. They're jealous that you changed the road you were walking on. You changed positions basically. And they see you now, and they see that you're looking better as a sheep with a shepherd than you did back in the day when you were a wolf running in their pack. And these things in and of themselves are what's making them aggravated and irritated and jealous and envious and bitter against you, okay? Because you have something that they don't have, and what they have, you don't miss. You're not interested in it. So because of that, you think that you're better than them. They think that you're coming from pride and ego and all these inflated things that actually is what they're coming from, right? But they don't see it this way because unfortunately they're being ran and controlled by the Jezebel spirit, which you can see clearly now because this veil has been lifted off your eyes. And it has been for a long time. You've seen things for how they really are, but their perception has been skewed. Because of this and the fact that they've been going against you, and because they're still in the wolf pack and in the world, they are able to be used by the devil. Just like in the past, how you've been used by the devil once upon a time too, right? And so because of that, the Lord has allowed the devil to use them to come against you. And you would say, well, what purpose does this serve? Well, very simple. It serves two purposes, actually. The first purpose is that it served a purpose on pushing you into getting closer to Christ and becoming a part of his flock and allowing him to shepherd you. That's another thing that upsets these people that come against you, these wolves, is that they see that they actually played a part in helping you to just stay where you're at, right? Like, so you made the choice to leave from the world and being a wolf into being a sheep and a part of a flock. And their actions are actually what's caused you to stay where you're at instead of going back. They were trying to make you turn back to the wolf pack, but not only have you not done that, you've actually leveled up and are doing better for yourself now, being the sheep part of the flock with the shepherd, than you were when you ran in their wolf pack. And they know that that was because of what they were doing, because the things that they were doing against you to try to make you turn back, because they were being puppeted by the devil to make you go back to the world instead of being on God's team trying to save souls, which is the last thing the devil wants, by the way. When they were trying to do this, they wanted this to be the outcome for you. And when they saw that not only was it not working, but that you were actually thriving in your new position, it highlighted all the more who you were now and who they are, right? There was always a division and divide, but you thriving and them not really highlighted who's who, right? And everyone else can see this. And so now the devil's panicking because he thinks that these people, these wolves, are going to leave this wolf pack worldly mentality behind just like you did, and pick up their cross and carry it and follow the good shepherd like you did. That now it's taken a long time, it's taken years in some cases, but now they're at the point that they're going to make the same decision They're at the same crossroads you were at, and they're about to make the same decision you did. Because they're starting to see that not only does this wolf pack worldly mentality not thrive anything or foster anything positive, but now they're seeing how much you've thrived as an example, right? And so now they're at the crossroads and the brink of leaving this worldly wolf pack mentality behind, which is exactly what the Lord had intended from the very beginning. So you see, this whole attacking you situation served a purpose. Maybe it's not what you would have chose, but it served its purpose in the fact that, for one, it made you make the switch first and leave that wolf pack team to become a sheep in the flock and go get cleaned up and work for the Father. So you got saved and sanctified and delivered. And now because of that, your shining example is paving the way for these other people that used to deal with you to make the same choice and decision that you made. Unfortunately, it had to take quite some time, but I mean, that's what happens, right? And so this is where we're at now. So this veil has been lifted off you for quite some time, and you see things clearly, and you have. You've known what's all been going on this whole time. They're the ones that have had the veil still over their eyes, because like I said, this veil is a worldly veil. So when you're in the world, you have this veil, these sunglasses, okay? But when you make the switch, the Lord takes them off of you. And these, so you have yours off, they still have theirs on. But what the Lord's been doing lately is lifting this veil off. They haven't made the crossover yet. Well, some of them have, but not 100%. But it doesn't matter. The Lord is lifting this veil to show them what's really going on. So they've been in la la land this whole time, and you haven't. You've been seeing things from the eagle's eye view, like I talk about, and they've been on the land like a mouse with a limited perception. The Lord is giving them an eagle eye view. And so they're starting to see things from your point of view, what you get to see and do as a sheep, and they're interested. And they're starting to be more intrigued by this opportunity than they were way back when you initially did this, okay? So it's looking a little more juicier to them now than it did once upon a time. Because once you see from the eyes of the eagle, you don't want to go back to seeing things from the eyes of the mouse, right? And so that's one. And two, it's allowing them to see what really happened, what's really been going on here, like that they've been hypnotized this whole time. They've been brainwashed. They've been hypnotized. Here they have been going against you, thinking you're this bad, evil, wolf, horrid person, and thinking they're all sheeps. But in reality, but that's because of this veil of the world that the devil's placed on them. But when the Lord takes this off you, you actually see things for what they really are. And so the Lord is showing them, no, you've seen it backwards. This person is a child of mine. And not only are they a child of mine, they are what they say they are. If they're saying they come in the name of the Lord, they do. If they're saying they're a child of God, they are. Yes, there are false ones out there, but not this one. Not every single person that prophesies or pastors or preaches or says they're a child of God is a false and a fake and a phony, okay? Not every single one. It's rare the ones that are real, but there are real ones out here. And these are real ones like you and I that have been cleaned up by the Lord, and we're not taken over by the Jezebel spirit. We're not false, fake, and phonies. We are genuine, true children of God. And the Lord has also allowed this to happen is to teach you and these people, don't judge a book by its cover. Because sometimes people can seem like they're good when they're really not. They say they're Christians, but they're really not. They have their lukewarm. And you got to remember, like I said, the world embraces lukewarm, but God doesn't. You cannot get into heaven being lukewarm. You have to be one or the other. So therefore, God doesn't judge our words or our actions. He's not like, well, Susie goes to church, so I'm going to spare her. And Tommy, he prays sometimes before he eats, so I'll spare him. That's not what God does. God judges our hearts. So God knows via our hearts, because he knows our looks can be deceiving. Appearances can be deceiving. Our actions can say one thing, but we're really thinking something else, or feeling something else, or we're saying one thing and doing something different with our, you know what I mean? Everything can be manipulated and skewed. But when it really comes to our heart, you cannot taint the heart. The heart is what it is, right? So that is why God judges us, and he's the just judge judging our heart space, is because it's a space that humans we cannot screen or call. There's been times I've thought someone had a good heart and they didn't. And there's been times I thought someone had a bad heart and they didn't. I personally am guilty of being off and skewed perception, right? Because I'm not the Heavenly Father. And that perception is even more skewed and off when you're in the world, because there's a veil over you. So not only is your perception off to begin with, but on top of that, you have a veil over your sight. So how well can you really see? If I had asked you to drive my car and you have a veil on, I'm going to be saying, no, you're not going to be able to see very good. That's not safe. You know what I'm saying? But that's how people are living their life in the world spiritually, is through veiled eyes. And so you've been the only person all this time that you've been under these attacks that have been seeing things accurately and properly, because this veil's been removed. The Lord has even given these people the benefit of the doubt by having you go out and say, hey, I'm a child of God. You shouldn't attack me. Hey, I know I used to run in the wolf pack, but I'm now a part of the sheep flock and I have a shepherd now. Hey, please listen to what I say. I'm literally, truly telling you that I work for God now and I want to save your soul. The devil has been whispering in these people's ear, it's fake, it's not true, they're evil, go against them. This is the voice of God speaking to you. This is God telling you that you have to take them out, and don't listen to them. And why would the devil do this? Because he doesn't want to save souls. He doesn't want you as the child of God to save anybody, for one, and for two, he wants to damn these people, these wolves that he still has access to that are in the world. He wants to damn them to the pit. So, and if he can maybe possibly get these wolves to go against you and somehow mess your life up enough to where you turn around and go back, then he's won that way. So in the devil's mind, he thinks, if I can get this child of God to stop, if I can get no one to take this child of God seriously, so that they cannot in good faith go and save souls because they have all this opposition against them, then souls aren't being saved. They're being overran by this lukewarm Jezebel spirit, which I know will send them down to the pit when they go. Okay, so there's one. For two, he's like, and if that tactic doesn't work, then I want to try and have this child of God go through so much opposition that they give up the cross they've been carrying and they turn back around and do a 180 and come right back to being part of this wolf pack and in the world, and be partaking their worldly sins and things like they used to do, and leave Team God and go back to Team Devil. That's the second tactic. Oh, that doesn't work? Okay, then what I'll try and do, if my last ditch resort is these wolves in this wolf pack that are in the world that are veiled, that I control and puppet, I will damn them. If I can get them to not be saved and to continually mess up their vision and their point of view and see things askew, then I'll be able to damn them when they go. So that's 1, 2, 3 tactics right there that the devil tries to do in this scenario, just to try to send people down to the pit where he's at. Okay? Meanwhile, the Lord is trying to save everybody. So he's trying to save you and these other people. So he sent you first because they had the option to pick up their cross. They chose not to. You did. Okay. Then he was like, okay, I'll work with this one then. He goes and cleans you up and gets you ready, sends you out as a child of his, saying, I'm a child of God, I'm a child of God. Trying to do what you can, whether it's preaching, prophesying, pastoring, singing gospel, whatever, interceding, deliverance, etc., to try to save these wolf pack souls. But because the devil's already gotten to them and skewed and brainwashed them and manipulated their perception of you by trying to say that the voice is of God when it's not, it's him, to go against you, then he's already created opposition between you and these people that you're trying to save. And due to this scenario that I just explained, this is why the sheep need to have a shepherd. Because the wolves are relentless. They are, they're just, I don't know what the word would be. Sorry, Lord, what's the word? Ruthless. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I heard that word earlier today. They're ruthless. Okay. These wolves, they are relentless and they are ruthless. They will not stop. And the Lord knows this. This is why. And they travel in groups and packs, right? So because of this, the sheep is more susceptible And that is why the sheep need a shepherd. And the shepherd is patrolling the flock, as in God is patrolling you as his child, his true child, and his flock of other children, to keep them safe from these wolves, aka enemy, that is being used through them as a vessel to go against the Lord's sheep. Okay? And this is all in efforts and an attempt to save souls, right? And so anyways, so long story short, I hope this is making sense so far. So these people that have been coming against you, you already know, it goes without saying, it is them, but it's not even them. They've been taken over by this Jezebel spirit that's been roaming around for quite some time, like other people are. Like I said, you're probably aware of other Christians in your life that you've seen, family members and things like that say they're of God, but then they're not practicing what they preach. They're saying one thing and doing another, and it's turned you off or made you give a side eye to God. And you have to understand that that's the Jezebel spirit. That's not actually God. And because of that, God does choose certain individuals like his Davids that he goes ahead and anoints and sanctifies and separates from the world and cleans up and prunes and etc. And that's the process you've been through all these few years, if this resonates for you. Just like David had to go through the process too. Okay, the Lord's just showing me, like, when Samuel went to go and see Jesse about his sons, because he wanted to anoint the next king, Samuel asked Jesse if he could see all his sons, and Jesse brought them all out except for David. But yet David was the chosen one. So the Lord is showing me right now that David was the one sheep in and amongst his family that was all wolves. So all of David's family, his brothers and etc., were wolves, and he was a sheep amongst wolves, right? And so therefore it would have only been a matter of time before David would have been taken over, or something would have happened of maliciousness towards David because of the fact that he was the one sheep around wolves. Sheep need a shepherd, right? And funny enough, David himself was a shepherd boy for sheep. So the Lord's like, well, you're shepherding sheep, but I'm going to shepherd you because you're a sheep and you need a shepherd. So that was the one, right? So Jesse, David's father Jesse and his brothers didn't even think it was David, but it was. And so, as we know, David went on to be the great and mighty man of God that he was. But was that situation or that scenario for all of them? No, it was just David out of the brothers. So out of however many men there were, David was the only chosen one, true child of God, delegated for that task, right? But that doesn't mean that David's brothers or even David's father couldn't have picked up their own cross and followed Christ themselves, right? They had the option to do that. God is there for everybody, right? So just beware of this Jezebel spirit. And for anyone that may come across this video, I hope this can be a lesson to you to know that there's a chance that you are going against a true blue appointed anointed child of God. You're a Saul going against a David, and we know what happened to Saul. And Saul had an evil spirit come upon him that was trying to tell him things that weren't right. And that's because Saul was not under the same covering that David was under, right? Saul could have been, if he would have repented and things like that, things that David did, but Saul chose not to do that. And then we know what happened to Saul, how Saul's outcome and David's outcome, right? That's the same thing with these people, is that they have been taken over by the dark spirit, and the dark spirit comes from the devil, okay? For lack of better words, that dark spirit is the devil speaking to them. Just like Saul visited the medium and the medium spoke. And that's the thing, is that because the devil is driving these people, it's leading them to go and do things that are not good just for them. It doesn't matter, you're fine, you're protected. But for them to try to go against you. So Saul had such a problem with David, but where he really put the final nail in his coffin was when he decided to go and visit that medium. But the only reason why he decided, he had the notion and the thought to go and visit a medium in the first place was because of the devilish spirit that had been driving him all along that led him to the medium's door in the first place. Then because he goes and partakes with the medium and receives that reading or fortune telling, whatever you want to say, from the soothsayer about it, that evil spirit, it opened up the door even more for that evil, dark, demonic spirit, devil spirit to come inside and take up residence with Saul. And from there, it wasn't long, Saul started to unravel shortly thereafter and fell on his own sword, right? And so that's the same thing in this scenario. God is saying is that these people, the devil has been driving them against you, and what's motivated them is bitterness and envy and malice and things that they don't, misunderstandings, wrong perceptions, hearsay, gossip. There's only a little bit of truth to some gossip and sometimes none at all, but they hear this gossip and they believe it, because you don't want to be with your ex-partner anymore. The ex-partner went and told a bunch of lies about you to people. Those people, they see that you're no longer part of them. You don't want to be a part of the wolf pack in the world. You want to go be a sheep in a flock over here. You're purposely setting yourself apart, but in actuality, it's God setting you apart. But they don't see it the appropriate, proper way because they have this veil on their eyes, because they're in the world. Because they have this veil, they think that you're doing it because you think you're better than them, and then it just fuels it all the more. And it's like this fire that never gets put out. It just keeps raging. And when God does come and try to put this fire out, they go ahead and pour more accelerant on it and more kindling and things like this to keep stoking it, right? And the Lord's been warning them many times through himself and through you personally, saying, just stop. I'm a child of God. I'm come in the name of the Father. Just stop. Even David tried warning Saul many times. David said to Saul, look, I cut off a piece of your cloak in the cave. This is to show you that you had your back to me and I could have went after you and I didn't do it. But I did this to show you how close I came to you. David, God warned Saul and David himself warned Saul. But it wasn't enough. It was too late. It just kept fueling, right? And so these people are not hearing from God. They think that they're hearing from God, but they're not. They're hearing from the devil. And they've been hearing from the devil all along. And the devil has been telling them things about you that aren't true. And because the devil's been telling them these wicked things about you that aren't true, they've been going against you 10 toes down because they think that that they're hearing from God and it's facts. But why would God tell somebody to go against somebody? In general, especially when God says vengeance is mine and not to judge, he's the righteous judge. And for two, if this person is coming to you and saying, I'm a child of God, it's best to just take that with a grain of salt. We even, back to the Saul and David story, we hear about how David knew what was going on with Saul, but David knew he couldn't touch Saul because Saul was still anointed. So even though David was kind of, if you want to say, more anointed than Saul, and David was the next up-and-coming king, and he knew what was in store for Saul because God had revealed it to David, David still had reverence for the fact that Saul was who he was once upon a time, right? And so that's the same thing as the Lord's trying to say in this message here, is that even if you're not sure if someone is a child of God or not, it's best to not go toe-to-toe with them because you don't know, right? You can't judge a book by its cover. They might say they're a child of God and you believe them and they're really not. But in flip case scenario, they may say they're a child of God and you may not believe them and they really are, right? So this is why God has to do the judging, because he knows what's really in our hearts and we don't know that as man, right? So God is saying that there's people that come to you. Let this part of the message be a learning point too, is that sometimes there's people that come to you and I that say they're of God and they're really not. Okay? They're actually full of Jezebel and they're lukewarm and they're hearing from the devil. And there's others that say they're a child of God and you might look at them sideways, but they really truly are, right? And it's best to, if you're not sure, to just keep your mouth shut and keep your hands to yourself because you don't necessarily know. And in the best case scenario, take it to the Lord, right? Take it to the Lord and ask him, test the Lord and say, is this person really of God or not? But if you just keep hearing the voice in your head telling you this person is not of God, but yet they really are, that's the devil telling you something. And then the devil's going to, if you listen to it and entertain it, then the devil's going to go full reign and tell you things about that person that's truly a child of God that makes you believe that they're not actually a child of God when they really are. And then you're going to have God coming after you. No, because then what'll happen is if you're a wolf and the devil's telling you to go against his sheep, and you think it's God telling you, and in some cases people know it's the devil and they do it anyways. It doesn't matter whether you think it's God telling you or it's the devil, and either way it is the devil, and he's saying, hey, go get that sheep, go get that sheep. You go ahead and try, but there's a shepherd there. It's not like the sheep is just out in open field. There's a shepherd there patrolling it, and there's also angels around as well as backup. And so if you make that move, and God knows that you got that direction from the devil, whether you realized it intentionally or unintentionally, then God's going to come after you, right? And anyone that's grown up on a farm, you would know that if say your father or grandfather's a farmer, and if you have cattle or horses or sheep or whatever, and there's wolves around, the very first thing you're going to go do is grab your GUN. Like, right? Am I not right? That's what the farmer will do. Especially the old school ones. They'll just go grab their GUN and take care of business. And so that's the thing. Do you think that the farmer's just going to go, oh, I see some wolves nearby. Looks like they're going to go after my sheep. Well, it's time for a cup of coffee. I better go in. No, that's when they're going to be more on the up and up, right? More protected, paying more attention, things like that, more protective. It's the same thing with God. So the second that a wolf starts fixing to zone in on his true children, his Davids, his sheep, that's when God goes and gets his GUN, spiritually, proverbially, I hope you know, but you know what I mean. And he ups the ante. He's not going to kick back and let that go down. And the devil knows that. That's why the devil sends these people to do it, is because his last ditch resort, his first choice is to get you as the child of God to go backwards, but you're not going backwards, and he knows it. So therefore, his last course of action is to get these people caught up. And he has every right to them and to do so because they haven't picked up their cross and carried it. They're still in this wolf pack, under this worldly mentality, with this veil under their eyes. So they're not seeing that they're running into danger. It's just like, say, if you had a hood over your eyes and you couldn't see, and I said, okay, go running for a half a mile, and you went running. Well, I just told you to run in the middle of traffic, and you don't know because you can't see, right? You have a covering over your eyes, a toque, a hoodie, whatever, but I put something over your eyes or whatever, and I say, okay, go running now, and you're hoping that you're in an open field, but you're not. You're actually in the middle of 4 lanes of traffic, and I just told you to go running with your eyes closed with this veil over them, and now you're running in the middle of traffic. Right? It's the same analogy. That's exactly what the devil's trying to do. He's trying to get people caught up. And if that happens to you and you get, taken up out, where do you think you're going to go? Right? Down to the pit where he is. And that's what he wants. So anyways, I think that's all the Lord is saying. That's all. That's it. So just again, in summary, I hope this explains why these people have been coming against you. It's been because of that division and because the devil's been telling them something about you that just isn't true. But they have no choice but to believe it's true because they know no different, because all they've ever known is this veil over their eyes. But in this present moment, the Lord's lifting this veil to give them a sneak peek preview of where they are and where you are and what's really going on for them and what's really going on for you. And they're starting to see things for what it actually is. And this is on purpose because in some cases it's to scare them straight, to like, you thought you were up, but you're actually down. And so it's making them actually see, and you thought this person was down, but they're actually up. It's making them see things for what it really is. And how the devil's leading them into a trap. They think they're leading you into a trap, but in reality, they're the ones being led into the trap. And the Lord is showing this to them for those that will be saved. For others of them, they don't even get this option. It's not even going to be something that's being, mercifully granted to them, right? And so this whole time, this is what's been really going on. If this message serves either as a revelation or a confirmation to you, this is what's been going on. And the Lord is just saying is that these people have been thinking all along that you're this bad guy and you're really not. You're actually truly a child of God. But because they know there's Jezebel spirit out there that has taken over some people, unfortunately, they're not sure what to believe. And because they lack the clarity because of this Balaam being in the world, the devil has free access to them, right? And to work for the devil, but they think they're working for God, to garner more information on you, to try to attack you better, stronger, harder, faster, and go against you 10 times more. They're going to mediums and spiritualists like Saul did, and they're creating lies about you and doing all kinds of spiritually illegal and criminally illegal things against you, like stalking and harassment and things like this. Everybody's situation is different. Just to try to garner information and fuel for this fire, for this proverbial fire that they won't put out. They're constantly wanting to keep it stoked because the devil's egging them and on their back to keep it going. And so they've ran out of things to use against you because you've walked with the Lord so long. So now they're having to manifest and create things to put this kindling on. And just like how Saul ran out of material, and so he had his last ditch resort was to go visit a medium. And then, well, the Bible tells you what happened to Saul shortly after that. And unfortunately, that's the fate that's in store for these people as well. For those that the Lord has already decided, and for those that don't listen. Because this is like, there's no more, we're way past the warnings and the freebies and the grace periods and all that stuff. We're way past that, where it's, I'm not going to get into that, but it's beyond that at this point now. So anyways, I'm going to leave it there. So again, I'm still resting, but I'll be back if the Lord leads me to, as we know. So if you don't see me, I'm resting. If you do see me, it's because the Lord's led me. Either way, I hope I know this message will find the right ones at the right time. I know the Lord will lead it to the right ones in the right time and those that need it. And I hope it finds you well. Take care and God bless.